Howdy folks, Scott here. Monday Night Wars, 2010. War, it's just a one-time thing. Do you feel the excitement? I felt it all day, I really did. So I watched Raw tonight. I flipped to the Spike during the commercial breaks. And tomorrow night I'm going to watch Spike. And so I'll review Impact, or whatever they were choosing to call this particular TNA outing. I'll review that tomorrow, and we can have a good time. I'm really interested to see what they pulled out over there. If I'm honest about Raw, can I be honest? I mean, it was a good show. They had some good matches, but I was expecting, you know what I mean when I say that? That's what I was expecting. But I just got... So, I'm very good at nonverbal communication. Well, so let's begin. Let's begin with Raw, because that's my personal preference when it comes to companies and wrestling. So Raw begins. Oh, I turned on the TV, and it was about 3 minutes until 8 o'clock, which is when Raw starts here in the Central Time Zone. 3 minutes to 8. Turn on the TV. Spike is on. Hulk Hogan is just now getting in the ring. And he says, "Hey, TNA Maniacs." That's a little too Richard Nixon for, I'm sorry. But he says something, he's giving his little pep talk, and he says, the TNA is going to be the #1 company in the world. And I looked at my watch, and I said, #1 company in the world? Well, that reminds me of something. Let me turn to USA and see what WWE is doing. So, the Raw begins with Bret Hart, a clip package, ending with reminding us about the screw job, and then something that last week just hung heavy on my mind. In fact, I had a dream that night about Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart. It's a long story, and it's not something that's really appropriate to talk about. No, I'm kidding. But I did have a dream about it. But anyway, Michaels says to Vince last week, he talks about closure, and he says nothing, only good will come of Bret coming back. And I watched this, and for the first time I said, is Shawn Michaels going to do something to Bret? That's what it sounded like, and that's what I've been thinking, because in my head I've been formulating what I think would be the perfect scenario between, with everybody. Do you want to hear that? Okay, let's talk about it. Here's what I was saying, or what I've been thinking for a while. Okay, so I say Bret Hart, because my understanding, so Bret supposedly has signed like a 3-month deal with WWE. So my thought was Bret comes in and is somehow installed as the general manager, right? And he and Shawn and everybody that he has heat with, they all keep their distance. And so finally, though, but Shawn keeps coming out saying he wants his rematch with The Undertaker, right? Well, finally, Shawn's in the middle of the ring with his microphone, saying that he wants his rematch with Undertaker. The lights go down, the bell tolls, out walks The Undertaker, hat, coat, everything. Undertaker gets to the ring, takes his hat off, and it's Bret, right? And Bret says to Shawn, "You want your rematch?" Right? He says, "You can have your rematch at WrestleMania, but it's a rematch with me. This is the rematch of the Survivor Series screwjob thing." I thought that would have been beautiful. Now, I don't know if Bret is able to do that, but it would have been... But obviously, it's not going to happen. And this is where my problem begins. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm very honest, right? And I'm probably going to be hard on TNA when I watch that show, because their product leaves me going... I'm always just not terribly impressed with him, but anyway. But I don't want to say that WWE is perfect and pretend that I have no problems whatsoever, so I'll be honest. Bret Hart comes out. He thanks his fans, which was very nice, and it was very nice to hear him say that, he was glad that they remembered him. That was a nice moment. Then he calls out Shawn Michaels, and I'm thinking, now, this is when the magic begins. But he and Shawn buried the hatchet. Okay. Then Bret calls out Vince, No, see, nobody kicked anybody in the face, which is what I was really. But yeah. So then he calls Vince out. Vince doesn't come out. That's it. Now, immediately it just starts with a bit of a whimper, I'm afraid. I was expecting fireworks. I was expecting tension. I was expecting to be, yeah, but we didn't get it. In fact, it seems like we saw less of Brett than we see of your typical guest host. And there was no talk of him coming back. You know, I just feel like this should have been the night, you know, that the road to WrestleMania begins. But it was just a nice Raw. Well, Vince says that he'll call Brett out later, and we'll get to that. Maurice and Brie Bella is okay. They're actually the beginning of a tournament. Melina was injured, had to vacate the title, will be gone for a while, and I say, poor girl, didn't she just get back from an injury? I like Melina, and I hope all is well with her. I hope she has a good 2010. But the Bellas try the old switcheroo, which doesn't work, thankfully. I'm not sure I love the Bellas. I just feel like I'm being told to love the Bellas, so I don't. That's how it works with me, because I'm a rebel. Anyhow, so Maurice catches Nikki. French kisses her, but not that way. Stay calm. And then, yeah. So Miz comes out to watch the next match, which is going to be the USA Championship #1 contender match, which turned out to be a pretty good match, which made me, and I was extraordinarily pleased that MVP won. As I was watching the match, I was thinking to myself, now MVP, the last couple of months, really ever since he got on Raw, has just been kind of hanging out, you know. They've been building his, and I guess they do this. They put their next top star in a tag team, and then let him, you know, for whatever reason, and then they let him split away. But yeah, I always have thought MVP is too good just to be another guy on the roster, and luckily he won. And we'll move along quickly because we're going to run out of time. Brett tells Jericho, no, I'm not going to hurt the match, throw the match. DX versus Jericho turns out in the very end to be a wonderful match. A lot of back and forth, a lot of excitement. Hornswoggle gets kicked in the head, which should please many of you, because I know many of you don't like Hornswoggle, which surprised me how many of you said the most annoying superstar when we did our wrestling video was Hornswoggle. I think he's a benign character. Orton offers to kick Brett for the 30th spot in the Royal Rumble. McMahon says no. Legacy then says if Orton loses, they will kick him out of Legacy and beat him up. Let's just see what happens. Okay, now this is where the sickening part begins. Out comes Sheamus, who says he's not going to give Cena a shot. But then out comes Bourne, who says, I want my shot now. He had the microphone. Evan Bourne did. And he got his shot. The match begins, and the idea was that if Bourne wins right now, he will get the title shot at the Royal Rumble. And I was watching thinking, I think they're going to do this. Because it seems like this could actually, you know, I mean, if Cena's out of the picture, then maybe they're going to give a shot again to a new young guy. And as you all know, I think Bourne is amazing. The match began out of the gate. Bourne was just doing his thing, and was really, really, I thought was wonderful, and proved once again to me why I wish he would have gotten the kind of push that, why he was more deserving of the push that Sheamus got, excuse me. That's that. But since Evan Bourne never wins, he didn't win. I have to speed along now. Kofi versus Orton. Again, very good match. A lot of false finishes. That SOS thing that I've never seen that, or I haven't been paying attention. That looked pretty dangerous. I don't think I'll ever want to be a part of something like that. But anyway, it gets RKO for the win. It turns out Legacy is not going to be kicking him out, but I think this really puts a very interesting spin on things. Finally, Vince closes the show, calls Bret out, says he wants Stu to be in the WWE Hall of Fame, gives him a very fake, and then everybody's applauding. Vince kicks him. So obviously this is not over, but once again, I just don't feel that it was strong enough. I mean, this is Bret Hart. This is monumental. And this is if they're setting this up for WrestleMania, which they probably should be, it just was a little weak. I'm sorry, guys, and I'm sorry, Bret. I did buy your book, Bret, so don't hate me. Anyway, I've got to go. We'll see you tomorrow night for TNA. Adios. Comments below. Bye.